Hello, in today's video, I'll be showing you guys how you can implement date pickers inside of Webflow using Pickaday or Datedropper. So let's first go into each use cases. Pickaday is essentially a very lightweight library with little to no dependencies. It's a very bootstrap feeling library, but also at the same time gives you a lot of customization that normal HTML would not give you. So out there's a lot of other videos already about how you can make date pickers inside of Webflow using custom elements, and then setting the input, the custom element to input, the tag to input, and then setting that type to date. Now, that's a really simple way of doing it inside of Webflow, but however, most of you guys need to customize that date picker into your theme of your application or your website, whatever the case may be. Now, there is two libraries that I would suggest you guys go with. First one being Pickaday, sorry, which is a open source library with little to no dependencies, as I said. And the other one being Datedropper. Datedropper is essentially I'd say a cleaner version of Pickaday, but it's a bit more heavier than Pickaday, and it also offers a lot more features that Pickaday does not offer right out of the box. So we'll first go through how Pickaday works, and it's actually right in front of you guys already the whole time I've been talking. There's essentially two separate components to the Pickaday date picker. The first component being the CSS um, component, setting your styles, as well as your arrows and all whatnot, and then setting your classes inside of CSS. Now, the other one, the other component is the actual logic itself, the JavaScript. Now, obviously, you can tweak around with this. Pickaday has a massive library. I mean, if you go to their documentation, they have a GitHub page dedicated to the Pickaday library. So a lot of people have been using this in the last few years already. So it's not a new library, and it's very open source. And this is one of the examples that Pickaday offers you. Essentially, it allows you to have the same feature as your plain HTML date picker, but once you click this, and then you get your date there. And again, the date you can format it yourself, and I'll be showing you guys at the end how you can format this to something much more orthodox, like a month slash date slash year. The other alternative you can go with is something called Datedropper. Now, Datedropper is a much more cleaner, as I said, version of Pickaday, and it offers you a lot more features like date range picker, for example. This is the example of how Datedropper looks. Now, this is a bit unorthodox, as in like unfamiliar to most people, but if you, for example, expand this into something like this, it now becomes much more familiar. And keep in mind all those, this color and the text colors here, this is all customizable. So depending on your application or your website, you can customize this as much as you like. As same goes for this Pickaday date picker. But yeah, this is essentially your option of years and all those things. It's a pretty straightforward library, and there's multiple instance of the date picker. You have your typical date picker, you have your year picker, so you can pick specific years, and you can have your range pickers as well. So for example, I want this is June, today's the 12th of June. For example, I want to schedule a meeting or a trip from the 13th to the 20th of June. And then now, boom, you have that already. So this is a really nice thing that Datedropper offers you right out of the box. In today's video, I'll be showing you how you can implement Pickaday in specifically, and not Datedropper. But yeah, let's just get straight right into the setup. So over here, you have your Webflow project, obviously, and I'll be showing you the setup now. So essentially, here I have a input field, a normal input field with the class of date picker. Now this is the only important part. You have to name your class date picker, or alternatively, if you don't want to query your date pickers essentially by class, you can also do it by ID. So you have to name each individual um, input fields with their sets of ID, and then query it that way. But essentially, the logic here is pretty simple and straightforward. First of all, you have your your Pickaday CSS style tag here. This is the only important part of the CSS, and then the rest you can put in a separate embed. This is a cleaner way of doing this whole thing. So inside of my global component, I have two separate stuff, which is the first one is global styles. Obviously, when you highlight and when you your responsive rems and all those things goes into the global styles embed. But for example, for this instance where I want to mess around with the date picker specifically, I can create a separate embed inside of the global wrapper here. Now inside of that date picker embed, you have all your styles here. This is essentially just this code, right? Now this code is essentially just this code. I just copied it over with a few little tweaks I had to make. Particularly the left arrows and right arrows. I had to link it to my specific SVGs, and not the SVGs that the library comes with. But yeah, this is essentially your setup. You have to first define your your colors, right? Obviously, in the finished product, it looks something a bit like this. This is the date picker that will look like in using Pickaday. You can select your date, and notice how this is different. The format of this is different than, for example, here. This is Thursday, June 20th, 2024. By default, this is what you're going to get. But if you format it in this particular format, you can also do that using some JavaScript. But yeah, essentially the setup is you have your code embed containing all your classes and all your all your colors and all those things. And then after you set your CSS, which I will link in the description below, I think I'm going to make a GitHub repository containing all of this, the CSS and the JavaScript that I use personally. And then after you have your CSS there, obviously, as I said, in the head tag of your page, you want to have this CSS style sheet link. And other than that, it's only the JavaScript. Other than that, it's the JavaScript. That's the only other component that goes into Pickaday, which is a really simple setup, right? But yeah, essentially the JavaScript setup, if I had to go through it, it's like query the class date picker, and then I want to give each class of date picker a function of essentially this whole setup here. So essentially, I'm going to set, like, for example, I want to enable the weekends. Like by default, I think you can I think you can like disable weekends. So what disable weekends is like it disables you from picking Saturday or Sunday. And then first day is set to 0. So if you set your first day to 1, it means that the first day of the calendar will be set to Monday as opposed to Sunday. Now, if you set it to 0, it'll be set to Sunday. And then min date is essentially the minimum date that you can pick is the current date. So that's essentially the setup. And then you have this thing called toString, which is essentially the formatting I showed earlier here. The month, the month, the date, and the year. So that's the format. This is the whole format here using some simple JavaScript. And yeah, other than that, that's pretty much it. You can now set up your date picker by querying each class called date-picker, and then each form inputs that has the class of date picker will get the function of this date picker here. But yeah, so essentially that's how you can create date pickers inside of Webflow. If you are interested in me showing you how you can do it using Datedropper, do let me know in the comments down below. I'll be showing you guys how you can also do it using Datedropper, which is a pretty interesting solution as well, a pretty interesting alternative to Pickaday. So again, as I said, it depends on your use case. Pickaday is much more, I'd say it's a much more familiar type of date picker than, for example, your Datedropper, which is a much more modern looking, cleaner looking, I'd say, date picker. So yeah, that's pretty much it. From here on, you can set this into your specific variables inside of Wiz. Make sure that the format is correct. Making sure that the month does not exceed 12. Making sure that the date does not exceed 31 in case a leap year. Making sure sorry, not a leap year, a month that has 31 days like October. And then making sure that your start date is not greater than the end date, or else if the end date is bigger than the start date, then it will set the end date to the start date. So that's essentially the basic logic where you can articulate from here inside of Wist. But yeah, I hope this video can give you some inspirations and some clarity on how you can tackle things, specifically in terms of date pickers inside of Webflow. And yeah, I'll see you in the next video. Ciao.